water ran red with the blood of young Canadian soldiers. Fighting for freedom, participating in the most pivotal day of the 20th century, determining the destiny of the world. D-Day has been called the most significant event of the 20th century. The world was at a crossroads. The Nazis controlled Europe. Their doctrine was racist. Their basis of power was hatred. Their manifest destiny to dominate the world was frighteningly real. Yet Hitler had them mired in a battle with Russia that depleted his power. To defeat him, the Allies needed to invade Western Europe and create a second front. The disaster at Dieppe taught the Allied planners several lessons that they would use in the planning of D-Day. They could not invade a fortified fort, so landing beaches were sought. The beaches had to be able to support tanks and wide enough to allow several divisions to land within a very short period of time. The site also had to be close to England. That was necessary for an efficient supply route, as well as being within range for effective aerial support by fighter pilots. Most importantly, it had to be within striking distance of Germany's industrial heartland. One location met all of the criteria: the Calvados coast in Normandy. A massive training program commenced, as did Operation Fortitude, a cover plan designed to confuse Nazi intelligence. But Hitler was aware of the weakness along the Atlantic coast. He had the Atlantic Wall built in order to repel an invasion anywhere along the Western Front. 17.6 million cubic tons of concrete was poured, fortifying the coast with gun emplacements, pillboxes, and obstacles. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel oversaw the massive program and had the coastline covered with mines. Any landing would face fierce resistance. Operation Overlord called for the landing of American, British, and Canadian units on 5 codenamed beaches. The Canadian Air Force would play a key role. Bomber Command would destroy gun emplacements and strategic sites. Fighter Command would provide aerial cover and support. Canadian paratroopers would parachute into action for the very first time in their country's history, jumping behind the lines and aiding the British 6th Airborne in protecting the east flank. The Royal Canadian Navy would transport the infantry and armored units across the English Channel and land them on the beaches, as well as providing artillery support. The infantry and armored units would land on Juno Beach and charge the fortifications there. Their job was to break through the Atlantic Wall and take a foothold in Europe. And so it was on June the 6th, 1944, when Canada became one of 3 nations that would determine the course of history. It would be Canada's 24 hours of destiny. As D-Day drew to a close, Operation Overlord was deemed a success. The Allies had achieved surprise in the attack and had captured a foothold in Europe. It was the beginning of the end of World War II. The Canadians landing on Juno Beach faced harsh resistance, second only to that of Omaha Beach. Yet the Canadians prevailed and advanced farther inland than the British and Americans. It was a magnificent military achievement that evokes great national pride. Yet It was a victory that came with a high price. On D-Day, 340 Canadians died, 574 were wounded, and 47 were taken prisoner. Theirs was a sacrifice in a just cause. No conflict was more pivotal to win, no evil greater to defeat. Anything less than victory would have been disastrous for the world. For those brave Canadians who were there, who determined the course of history, they deserve a nation's gratitude.
I'm quite proud of the fact that we did a job, and the best of our ability.
Well, I feel honored to have been there in a small way, participating in it.
Right now, I'm very glad that I was there. Now, I'm also pleased that I'm still here.
But it was an experience that I'm glad I went through it, and I'm glad I survived.
Oh, yes, very, very proud. I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
I think we should be proud to be Canadians, and for my part, to be especially a Métis veteran, I wanted to prove myself that I could be just as good a soldier. I don't care who he is or what he is or what color he was.
Well, I think I'm lucky to have taken part, and I'm lucky to have come through it.
Fantastic. And I think the Canadian Army proved they were one of the best in the world.
But to see so many people that didn't do it, that's a traumatic thing to see.
I wasn't really scared until much later.
I spent almost my whole life having survived all that and hardly give it a thought. I was damn lucky.
I guess it meant it was the turning point, and it showed that the end was near.
D-Day in the history of Canada must be one of the really significant events. A lot of attention is now being paid to D-Day 60 years after the event, probably more than has been in the past.
We had to get those people that were considering going to take over the world, like the Germans have with Hitler. And that's why I feel that it was an important engagement.
We felt we were doing the right thing, and of course we were. But what proved it, when we were going through Germany, just outside of Hamburg, is one of the concentration camps called Belsen-Bergen, or Bergen-Belsen. I never know which way to say it, but it was a concentration camp, and they had killed many Jews. And as our brigadier said, if you want to know what we're fighting for, that's a good place to see it.
We got rid of Hitler. Someone had to do it.
Did we save the world? Well, darn near it.
And that's who we feel sorry for, the many men and women that didn't make it home and lost 3/4 of their life.
I think it means a lot to Canadians because so many people were involved.
I'm not so sure that the average person really realizes how much that our generation, and of course the generation preceding us, did for Canada in these two dreadful wars.
I'm pleased and I'm thankful that I survived, and now I think more of all the guys who didn't. What would they have done with their lives if they'd have survived?
You go to the cemetery at Benny-sur-Mer, in the far left corner, all my friends are. I figure in that cemetery, I have no 80 people by first name.
When you go over there and see the cemeteries, you gotta drop a few tears, I'll tell you that.
We lost the most men. I get too emotional.
D-Day is something that our country ought to remember. That these people that are lying here, these are the guys that did it.
We came through it, but these are the people that have to be honored. It's our duty to honor them. They gave them everything.
Experience the whole story of D-Day with in-depth interviews and a comprehensive look at the events in the companion book to this documentary, D-Day, Canada's 24 Hours of Destiny, from Dundurn Press.